so much. Life is balance. Day and night, work and play, the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Likewise, your body is designed to transition between the fed and fasted state. When you eat a meal, food is broken down into usable components by your digestive system. Proteins, whether you get them from animal or plant sources, are broken down into amino acids, which are the building blocks of cells. For example, your muscles, skin, and connective tissue are all made from protein. Fats are converted into fatty acids, and they don't just go straight from your lips to your hips. Fatty acids form the protective outer layer of cells called the cell membrane. They cushion your internal organs and insulate you from the cold. Fats also produce sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen. Carbohydrates are converted into a sugar called glucose in your blood. Glucose is fuel for your body. For example, your muscles, brain, and nervous system all run on glucose. Any glucose that's not immediately used for fuel is stored in branches called glycogen in your liver and in your muscles. Now, your liver and muscles have a limited storage capacity for glycogen. So excess glucose is also stored in your fat cells, where they join with fatty acids to form a triglyceride. You see, your fat cells are like balloons. They can inflate or deflate based on how much energy is stored in them in the form of triglycerides. Now, after a meal, the presence of glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids signal your pancreas to secrete a hormone called insulin. Insulin shuttles nutrients into your cells. Insulin also tells your fat cells to stop releasing stored fuel. In other words, you're not burning body fat while insulin is dominant. And insulin is dominant in the fed state, from the time you eat to about 8 to 12 hours after. Now, 12 hours after a meal, when you're done digesting and metabolizing food, your body is in fasting physiology. Several hormones counter to insulin are released to mobilize stored energy. Your pancreas secretes glucagon, and your pituitary gland secretes growth hormone. Glucagon and growth hormone work together to break down your glycogen stores to provide glucose to meet your fuel needs. Glucagon and growth hormone also break down triglycerides from your fat cells into glycerol and fatty acids. Glycerol is then converted by your liver into glucose. And your liver converts fatty acids into ketone bodies to fuel your brain. This production of glucose and ketone bodies, along with the high levels of growth hormone, protect your muscle proteins from being used for fuel. So, one of your most effective fat loss strategies is intermittent fasting, where you go 12 to 16 hours without food. You can have water, you can have black coffee, you can have unsweetened tea. But nothing with calories, liquid or solid, during that 12 to 16-hour period, because you're going to be burning fat at an accelerated rate. And the easiest way to take advantage of intermittent fasting is to extend the time between your last meal and your first meal, because half of that time you'll be asleep. During fasting, your adrenal glands also release neurotransmitters called catecholamines. The main catecholamines are epinephrine, which used to be called adrenaline, norepinephrine, and dopamine. These catecholamines increase mental alertness and blood flow to your muscles. So the fasted state is a good time to exercise. And the kind of exercise you do makes a difference in your results. The fat-burning zone, which is based on a percentage of your maximum heart rate, is actually a misnomer. See, you're always burning fat during exercise. The question is, at what rate? Heart rate is an indirect way of measuring exercise intensity. Intensity is defined as the amount of muscular force production per unit of time. And you can increase intensity by increasing speed or increasing resistance. The more intense the exercise, the faster you burn fat. But if it's too intense, you're not able to sustain it long enough to burn much fat overall. The solution is high-intensity interval training, where you do a short burst of high intensity, then recover at a lower intensity, and repeat this for as many rounds as you can maintain good form. An example of a high-intensity workout would be a 20-second sprint, then a 40-second walk. 20-second sprint, 40-second walk, and repeat for 10 rounds. Ultimately, the feeling you're going for is a slight burning sensation in your muscles. Basically, when it comes to training for maximum fat loss, if it's not intense, it don't make sense. After training, you'll need to replace raw materials in the form of nutrition. And the first two things to focus on are proteins and fats. Because remember, protein and fats are your building blocks. I'm going to send you a list of 40 high-protein foods, both animal and plant-based sources, and what fats to eat, what fats to cook with, and which to ditch. Protein and fat have the added benefit that they're released very slowly from your stomach. So they're extremely satiating, which reduces your hunger from meal to meal. Protein and fat are where it's at. Now, because we have a limited storage capacity for carbohydrates, and excess glucose increases triglyceride formation, it makes sense that we want to limit our total carbohydrate intake. Processed carbs are more concentrated than unprocessed carbs because they lack dietary fiber. Fiber slows the release of glucose into your bloodstream. For example, bread and pasta start from a finely ground wheat flour, which means you get a higher glucose load per bite compared to a sweet potato or yam, where the starch and sugar are bound to a plant fiber called cellulose. Another good example are fruits, especially berries and citrus. So strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, oranges, and grapefruit. The one food you want to consume more than anything else are green vegetables, because green vegetables have the highest fiber to carb ratio, and they're very high in the alkaline minerals. You see, your blood functions best at a slightly alkaline pH. If it becomes too acidic, it'll take minerals from other parts of your body in an effort to rebalance pH. One way is to mobilize calcium from your bones, which can weaken your bones. So you always want more greens than anything else. And I'm going to send you a list of the 30 best green vegetables to eat. Remember these words. If you want to be lean, you got to eat green. Now, things change as we age. As women approach menopause, the ovaries become less active. So the adrenal glands take over to produce the ovarian hormones, progesterone and estrogen, which means you're more likely to experience adrenal fatigue, which can change your mood and make it harder to mobilize body fat. And men gradually produce less testosterone with age. Testosterone accelerates muscle tissue repair and blocks the activity of a fat-storing enzyme called lipoprotein lipase. So a lower testosterone level decreases your lean to fat ratio. Now, hormone therapy is an option for both men and women. The thing I want you to realize about hormone therapy is when your body senses outside hormones, it shuts down its own production. So you need to take a dose that's higher than what you're producing naturally to achieve a positive effect. And the higher the dose, the higher the potential for negative effects. Depending on your situation, that might be worth it to you. I'm not able to give you that answer. You'll need to talk to an endocrinologist. But all the other strategies stay the same. If you want to be lean, you got to eat green. If it's not intense, it don't make sense. And if you want to be fit, you must commit. Thank you.